It's been a year of stagnation here. Reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah, the two main Palestinian factions, seems as far off as ever, and the wider Middle East peace process is stuck. So the Gaza blockade remains in force, and one consequence of that, even the most basic building materials can't be brought in. Raid al-Athamna and his 8 children are still living in a tent.
The first time I see all of our houses, all our things destroyed, I'm thinking I'm destroyed my life. Not only my house, my life, my future destroyed. Making me thinking so much, to crying so much, I lose everything, my business, my future, my kids, everything.
A new house is being made of mud bricks. There's no alternative when Israel won't allow Gazans to buy concrete. That's a state of affairs which may well continue as long as the militants are in charge here. One of Gaza's fighters, Abu Saif, says Israel is mistaken if it thinks it has won. The Zionists' vicious campaign will backfire on them, he says. The Palestinian people are patient. We're in the phase of preparation now. Our jihad will continue.
If those incoming rockets wouldn't have been targeting Israeli civilians day after day, week after week, there would not have been that conflict. We've now had, over the last months, an unprecedented period of quiet. We didn't want the conflict. We definitely did not want to see Gaza's civilians caught up in the crossfire between Israel and Hamas. But we were forced to act.
Gaza, too, is relatively quiet, but life is hard. Any luxuries and many necessities must be expensively smuggled in through tunnels from Egypt. And the Israeli army is already working on plans for the next military assault, should rocket fire resume. What passes for normality here could easily be destroyed. Paul Wood, BBC News, Gaza City.
Our correspondent Tim Franks is in Sderot on the border between Israel and Gaza, and he joins me now. Tim.
Well, this is the area that the Israelis saw as their front line for several years. According to the Israeli army, between 2002 and the end of the war earlier this year, Palestinian militants fired 10,365 missiles towards Sderot, the town you can see over my shoulder, and the other communities around here in southern Israel. One of those who had to try and pick up the pieces is Judith Bar-Chai, who's a therapist with the National Centre for Victims of Trauma. Judith, you've been working in this area for the last 5 years. I guess this year you've had less work.
Less work from one side, and from the other side we have the effects of post-trauma syndrome, and then that's what we're seeing now. People that aftershock need treatment, not only in Sderot, but also in the different areas in Israel that were wounded, as Ofakim, Netivot, Beersheva, Ashdod. And this is from 2 different kinds of work.
How many people were caught up in the sense of trauma, the sense of fear that they could be the victims of a missile attack?
You are talking about a sense of fear, and you are talking about a sense of trauma. It's not the same. Fear, we all feel fear. I live here and I was many times afraid. Trauma and post-trauma is a different step of the fear, when you are unable to cope with the situation, and you are unable to do what you usually do, parenthood, work, whatever. And
do people feel though now that those years are behind them, or are they still concerned that violence could erupt again?
They feel more secure, and they hope the situation is behind them.
But presumably they also think that only a political resolution is the only thing that's actually going to sort this out once and for all.
That's what I believe. I cannot I'm not a spokesman. I cannot speak about everybody, but I think that the only solution will be a political solution, not a military solution, for both sides.
Judith Bar-Chai, thank you very much for joining us. As you get there, a sense of some relief that the barrage, as the Israelis saw it, coming from Gaza over into southern Israel, has lessened, dwindled almost to nothing. But there is still a concern that it may not be over forever. Back to you in the studio.
Tim, thanks very much indeed. David.